up. Now, this is all great if the country is doing well. Now, let me just take a sectoral intervention to take on the larger picture. Vishal Kurma is joining us. Mr. Kurma, you're running a university out of Hyderabad. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
So, how many people do you employ, sir, who are teaching and staff members and other ancillary people?
We have total of about close to 1100 plus people.
So 1100 people who are then salaried people, right? I mean, it's a venture, but then all of these people, if the tax rate today goes down without any cost to you, those people will have more money in their bank account. So you benefit because they'll be happier, they'll be slightly wealthier, they'll benefit. So are you hopeful that something special happens?
See, Rishabh, thank you so much for setting the context all this while. A couple of things. One, of course, the consumption is very, very sluggish at the moment, and that is basically plaguing the entire economy as we speak. And now towards that, a couple of factors have basically come up and which also impacts the job creation, which results towards the economy's disposable income, per capita disposable income for them. Now, if you have to get those things sorted, there are a couple of things which are required. One is, of course, the capex from the government side has to pick up for sure, and the deployment has not been done, particularly for this year. And maybe it is because of the last July budget post the elections, and then they didn't get time or whatever, and the consumption was not there for the capital expenditure which they had allocated. Now there's a 12% dip which is there, which obviously would have impacted the consumption story there. Second is you definitely need the job creation, which will also get impacted if the capital expenditure takes up and it moves towards the north side. So that is going to work. For job creation, which also is going to impact the consumption, is you need desperately, I would say, you need the urbanization of the next 50 towns to come up to the level of the 6 metros which are there in this country. And if that happens, that can only happen once you have the setting up of SEZs in those particular cities, and also some of the GCCs coming and setting up in those particular cities.
Okay, so let me ask a follow-up, Mr. Kurma, on that, because it seems we are not in a crisis, right? There's no disaster happening right now, both in India or, seriously in any parts of the world. I know growth is a bit sluggish, but, we've come out of COVID. There's no economic crisis. There's no, financial markets meltdown. So everything looks good. So what Mr. Kurma is referring to is that when you say I'm going to spend 30,000 crores on building infrastructure, but by the end of the year, you don't have enough projects to have consumed the 30,000 crores, you haven't deployed the funds. And therefore, it's of no real use to the economy. But the issue is, when we see the roads are getting built, the metro stations are getting built, the trains are coming online, we are seeing the airports getting built. It seems that what you're saying is happening. All of this is happening. But at the same time, the GDP growth just won't go beyond 7%. What's happened?
See, Rishabh, one thing I would like to tell you is direct taxes or STT or even the capital gains, the target for this year, government has already met. There is an increase in the bracket by about 7.5% number of taxpayers. Now, even if there is a collection which is higher, which is almost 17-18% growth over the previous year in terms of direct taxes, what I'm talking about, and you have met the target, don't you think if the consumption is bad, now the time is there to cut the taxes for the middle class? Because if you are sitting on that kind of a chunk of funds and you have achieved your targets, it clearly means the consumption needs.
Yeah, but my question is, why is it bad? Country seems to be looking okay. I mean, my dipstick test always is go to the markets. Are they quiet or are they buzzing? They seem to be buzzing. Everything looks good. But when the GDP figures hit us, they just don't cross 7%. Why is consumption bad? What is happening? What is the miasma?
The consumption is going wrong because of the kind of inflations which are there, the job creation which is not happening as per the expectation. Those two are the big factors which are there. And unless we address those things in a systemic way in the economy, those are not going to change. You saw the taxes, direct taxes, almost growing at about 18% odd in this year. But why the economy is still growing at 6.2%? Can anybody tell me that? There is a clear reason which is there. Because if your tax net has increased by 7.5%, your collections are up by almost 18%, the economy shouldn't be at this kind of a level of 6.2%, and you're giving a forecast of
Okay,
6.4%.
so there is an X
Now it is
factor
going to
missing.
align towards Viksit Bharat 2047, where you need minimum 8%, 8.5%
Okay,
kind of
that's
growth.
what the economic survey said yesterday. You need minimum 2 decades of 8% growth, which means that you got to have 0 year, all right? That this is the first year when we surpassed 8% growth. Some people would say, no, you need to do 10% growth, all right? But let's say 8% growth. China was exceeding 10, 12, 14% growth at its peak of growth, not anymore, but they did that for 2.5 decades, okay, to get where they are. So we'll have to do the same. We got 22 years till 2047. So which becomes 0 year? Let me put that question to Gautam Mukherjee. Gautam Mukherjee, it's